My friends, throughout the whole night, Iran did something it had avoided doing for 4 entire months. And when you understand what it is, you'll realize that the pattern keeping this whole war in check has just been broken. Last night, for the first time in 4 months, Iranian missiles flew towards Saudi Arabia. Two Saudi cities had real alarms going off, this time for real, and they admitted it. And that's just one of today's bombshells. The right-hand man of Iran's supreme leader went on television, and he openly threatened to launch a full offensive and crush the enemy. He gave a deadline of 2 to 3 days for this. That was yesterday, so we have 2 more days. The Americans completed their 7th consecutive night of operations in Iran without stopping for a single day, one after another. And on this last night, on this 7th night, more bridges were brought down around Bandar Abbas. These are the images, the siege that I've been outlining for you here on the map for days. Today, it became impossible for anyone to ignore. And on the other side of the world, American warplanes are taking off from Europe, crossing all that distance and arriving in the Middle East. F-16, F-35, one after another. Guys, it doesn't stop. So, stay with me until the end of this video, because today I'm going to put the pieces together once again, and you might understand, maybe, behind all of this, the entire American plan. This isn't just any attack, guys. It's not a shot in the dark. A lot of people are saying this is a shot in the dark by Trump. It's not. It's a plan with a clear objective and a sequence that I'm going to show you from beginning to end. And look at what I'm going to do in this video. I'm going to show you step by step the military plan that's happening right in front of your eyes and that almost no one is noticing. A plan so methodical that in the middle of the video, you'll be able to predict what the next target is even before the Americans attack. And when we get to the end of this video, you'll understand why the next phase could start in a matter of hours, not days, folks. So stay tuned, because if you leave in the middle, you'll miss the piece that connects everything. Once again, live from Israel, right from where everything is happening. Local time, 2 p.m. first, I'll connect you with yesterday's live stream. For those who watched my noon live, I didn't stream last night because I couldn't. I simply passed out from exhaustion. I couldn't do another live stream. So, I'm here now bringing you the update from last night from the early morning hours. And now, the attacks are continuing, you see? They're still happening right now. Missiles were fired from Iran toward the American base in Jordan. Pay attention. Let's do a recap of what we talked about yesterday. Yesterday, I showed you the encirclement that was starting to close in around Bandar Abbas. Actually, I've been talking about this for a long time. I showed you here the 3 cards Trump had on the table: Karg Island, Pickaxe Mountain, and Iran's energy. And I also showed you something that I asked you to remember if you recall. As long as Iran spared Saudi Arabia and Israel, it was still contained. So remember this phrase because it will come up again in a moment, and it's the key to today. If you missed the live stream, I'll pin it in the cards. Once this ends, I'll add the link here. Before the news, please pay attention. I've got a quick lesson since new people are joining the channel. A lesson that is truly the backbone of everything you're going to see today, and maybe even during tonight as well. There's a military principle older than gunpowder. I've said this before, but I'll repeat it, since some people skip this important part. Before you enter any place, you isolate that place. You don't go in shooting through the front door, expecting surprises inside, right guys? First, you cut off the roads, then you cut off the bridges. Then you take out the eyes that see far, which are the radars and towers. And then you cut off communication so the city can't even ask for help. And lastly, you cut the power. Leave everything in the dark. When you're done with that, whoever is inside doesn't get reinforcements, because there's no way. They don't get food and they don't get ammunition. And those on the outside can't get in to help anymore. That's just a theory, okay? In theory, that's how it's supposed to work. The city is left alone, blind and powerless. We saw this happen in the Gaza Strip. We saw this happen in Lebanon. Back at the Litani River, when the army cut the bridges that connected northern Lebanon to southern Lebanon. So, we're seeing the same scenario repeating itself here, this time in Iran. And it's exactly at that point when the isolation is complete that the entry begins, only after all of this. So keep this principle in mind, because today the map of Iran screams this principle louder than any official statement. And that's what I'm going to prove to you here point by point throughout this video. And now let's go to the timeline of what happened, because the order of things tells the story. And yesterday, around 11:30 p.m. more or less, Israel time, that's in our local time, US Central Command released the following statement. They said it had started, which in this case was at 3 p.m. US time, another round of operations against Iran, the 7th night in a row. And pay attention to that number. 7 nights, guys. without skipping a single day. In other words, no chatting in between, no break for negotiations, nothing. 7 consecutive days. And every night the attacks are escalating. And for anyone who's just joining the channel now, guys, go ahead and leave your like because I know you forgot to do that. So do it now, leave your thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, which I know you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe, okay? Because this is really going to help the channel a lot. And it helps YouTube understand that this video is important and shows it to more people. So, this 7th round started, and a few hours later, the Central Command released a second statement saying that round was over after a few hours. And look at what they hit in their own words. Surveillance points, logistical and military infrastructure, underground weapons depots, and naval capabilities. American forces used fighter jets, drones, and warships. More than 50,000 American troops operate in the Middle East, vigilant, lethal, and ready. End quote. 1,000, folks. Remember that number. It'll come up again in my analysis. Now notice what was hit last night. This is where the earlier lesson starts to make sense. More bridges, more than the day before, right? Again, bridges. A bridge between Kerma and Bandar Abbas. Let me pull up the map here. There you go. I prepared this especially for you. A bridge between Kerma and Bandar Abbas. A strategic 3-lane bridge further south, the Shur River Bridge. At the entrance, on the road that leaves Bandar Abbas. And the whole tunnel, the central traffic tunnel, was also hit. And look at what's happening. Pay attention, guys. Yesterday it was 6 bridges, today more bridges, and now a tunnel. In other words, it's not random, it's methodical. It's like a surgeon cutting through all the routes that lead to Bandar Abbas. And for those who just joined and don't know what this city is, let me explain it to you. There it is in the corner, up there, Bandar Abbas. We're seeing the Strait of Hormuz there. Clearly, okay? So pay attention to its location. This explains everything, guys. Because without this, nothing I'm saying here makes sense. Bandar Abbas is simply the most important city in this Strait of Hormuz. It's the most important. There's no other more important than it. It's the main port in southern Iran. There's also Keres Island there. To get to Keres Island, you need to go through Bandar Abbas. From this same place, those small Revolutionary Guard boats that attack ships also launch. From this same place, a good part of what's left of the regime's navy operates. If there's even a navy left at all. In practice, we can say it's the command center for the Strait of Hormuz. Everything happens there. It's the headquarters of the Strait of Hormuz. And now pay attention to what the Americans themselves said behind the scenes to their own press over there. Pay attention. An American official said the following: "Look, ammunition, supplies, and reinforcements go through Bandar Abbas to the rest of the strait, okay? Everything comes from there. It gets to this point and spreads to the rest of the strait, whether it's to Kermanshah, which is at the beginning, outside the strait, near Pakistan, or in the direction of the city of Arvaz, or near Karg Island, Karag. Pay attention. Did you understand exactly what he's saying? He said it very clearly. Because they're cutting off the bridges. It's to prevent ammunition, food, and reinforcements from reaching Bandar Abbas and the rest of the strait as well. This is the lesson from the live stream leader, happening now. Roads and bridges are being cut off to isolate the city. I also mentioned the next step is to blind the city. Do you remember? I'm going to go back here to the images of the bridges. These are the new ones, okay? Not the ones from 2 days ago. These are the new bridges. Because in that same campaign, the Americans took down the Maritime Control Tower. The one in Shabaha, remember that one? The eyes of the strait. And they also hit a communication tower in Bandar Abbas. Cut off the eyes. Cut off the communication. Pay attention now. This is where I fulfill my promise from the start. Earlier you learned the siege sequence. Road, bridge, eyes, and communication, right? So now tell me, what's the last step that's missing in all of this? Think about it for a second. Energy, guys. The energy. If you thought of that, you just predicted the next target. Before I show you, you understood exactly the plan, and that's exactly what happened. Look at what the Americans did at the port of Jask in southern Iran. According to the Iranian press itself, electrical facilities and water pumps were hit. And the result? About 20 villages with almost 10,000 people were left without drinking water. Without drinking water. The terrible price of war, right, folks? The terrible price of war. We must be clear. These 20,000 people likely have no part in this war. But that's the cost of war, and nothing can be done. It's the side effect of a war. No power, no water, in the middle of unbearable heat of over 49 degrees, folks. The heat in this region is absurd. Absurd. So you see how each piece of the attack fits, right? With what I've been telling you from the beginning. Road, bridge, eyes, communication, and energy put in the right order like a war manual. And that's why the Iranian analysts themselves, not me saying it, the Iranian analysts themselves, they're the ones saying out loud what I've been outlining here for days, that this looks like preparation for taking over the coastal strip of the strait. In other words, a complete takeover of that area around Bandar Abbas mainly, and maybe the city of Kermanshah as well, which is close to Pakistan, whether by air or by land. Let me pause to share my view on the American plan since no one else is. Notice how smart this move is. Trump isn't attacking Iran to overthrow the regime. He's said that repeatedly. What he's doing is surgical. He's strangling just one spot on the map, the only spot on the map, the spot that hurts the most, which is the Strait of Hormuz. He doesn't need to invade Tehran. He doesn't need to stain the capital with blood. He doesn't need to do that, right, guys? He needs to go there. He just needs to isolate the shore of the strait, choke Bandar Abbas, and show the regime that's still left there in Tehran. When he wants, he can go in, just to show strength, guys. While he's doing that, he keeps the door for negotiation open. They're still talking about negotiation, guys. It hasn't gone to total war yet. There's even a map, a questionable map going around. Let me show you this map here. It's from the Iranian media, okay? A map from the Iranian media of what could be the big plan behind all of this, okay? Take a look at this, guys. Take a look at this little map here. American forces in the Strait of Hormuz. NATO forces invading from above. And Kurdish forces invading there from the Iraqi side. And even forces from Pakistan. Do you see here? Baloch separatists invading from Pakistan into this region of Iran. This here is the map that was published in the Iranian press. According to them, this would actually be the big plan of this war. The United States is clearing out this area now. Then Israel comes into play. Then NATO in this region as well, together with the Kurdish separatist forces and the Baloch in Pakistan. Will this actually happen? Look at the movement of planes, guys. Look at the movement of planes. It doesn't stop. It's maximum pressure with an exit always available. Always remember that, guys. There is a way out, okay? There's a way out and it's negotiation. Going back to the negotiating table. I think it's very difficult, but it's still open. On one side, the siege is tightening. On the other, there's a hand extended saying, sit at the table and let's stop. That's the move, and it's a very cold and calculated step-by-step play this time. That's why I tell you, it's not a random shot, it's a plan. And the plan is working because look at Iran's reaction. Because when you pressure a regime like this, it reacts. And that's exactly what happened overnight. Iran responded, and it responded across a huge geographic area. But before I show you the response here, let me ask you something real quick. If up to now I've already explained the siege of Bandar Abbas and the American plan in a way the mainstream media doesn't, then do something for me. Hit the like button on this video now, okay? Smash that thumbs up, guys. This small gesture helps push this information to reach more people who need to really understand what's happening here, and it helps bring you these maps published by the media over there in Iran. And if you want to get every twist in this story firsthand, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell because things are changing here hour by hour, and if you're not subscribed, you'll be left behind. Now, let's get to Iran's response, and this is where the pattern breaks. In the last few hours, Iranian missiles and drones have entered the airspace of several countries at the same time. Jordan, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, Iraq, Oman, and Syria. But pay attention because there's a new name on this list, a name that changes a lot, Saudi Arabia. Early this morning, alarms went off in 2 cities in Saudi Arabia. And according to the American official, it was the first time in 4 months that Iran directly attacked the Saudi kingdom. And with this statement from the American official, he reveals something else. Look, pay attention. According to the American official, it was the first time in 4 months. That means they had already attacked before. And back then, Saudi Arabia said that no attack had happened. Remember that? They never admitted they were attacked. And now he's saying it himself, he's revealing what happened back then. But we don't have short memories here, right? It's the same story with the United Arab Emirates. They were never attacked. But then a satellite image appears showing a destroyed base over there in Abu Dhabi, part of the base. Anyway, official statements. In about 4 months, an American official might say it was the first time in Saudi Arabia and in the United Arab Emirates too. Let's return to the start of the video. Remember the sentence from yesterday I asked you to recall? As long as Iran avoided attacking Saudi Arabia and Israel, it remained contained. So tonight it stopped sparing Saudi Arabia. Do you understand how big this is? The Untouchables Club just lost another member. And it's not me saying this, guys. I'm also not saying it was on purpose. It's the regime itself saying it. Because right after the alarms in Saudi Arabia, Noor News published a note. Pay attention to what Noor News is. which is an agency linked to Iran's Supreme National Security Council. In short, when they speak, it's basically the regime speaking. Look at what they wrote. America started the infrastructure war, but our response to any attack won't necessarily be in the same way or against the source of the aggression. Last night's alarms in Saudi Arabia were a sign. The countries in the region can't host the war and expect to stay out of it at the same time. Whoever hosts the war can't remain a peaceful guest in the neighbor's house. End quote. And do you know which of the two hashtags they used to end it? They put a hashtag, ended that statement. Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. Hashtag Qatar, hashtag Emirat Zara. Do you get the message? Iran took the attack on Saudi Arabia and turned it into a warning for all the Gulf neighbors. The message is clear. Whoever lets the Americans use their territory will become a target. In other words, each American base in each of these countries will no longer be just the base, the target, but the country itself, the country's infrastructure. That's why they're saying the war on infrastructure has begun. It has begun. So that's why he's clearly saying to hit sensitive locations like power stations, water desalination plants, something that's very sensitive in the Middle East, folks. So for those who live there, our friends and followers in Abu Dhabi, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, I advise you. Once again, I did this back during the 40-day war. Thank God nothing happened during that period there. Buy water. Buy water, folks, just buy water as much as you can. It won't go bad. At worst, you'll drink it after the war, okay? It won't spoil. So, buy water. Do it right now. This is geopolitical blackmail on the regime's letterhead. Why do I say this? Because in your local media, you won't see this, folks. What gets reported from there is censored, so it doesn't come out. Even in Israel, we barely see what happens here. We have to look elsewhere to find out what happened. So, pay close attention. Yesterday, there were 3 names that Iran was avoiding mentioning. They skipped this, folks. United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, and Israel. The Emirates were removed from the list days ago. Remember? They hit a US base in Abu Dhabi. And the explosions were heard by a lot of people in other places. Some said they heard them in Dubai too. Some people say they didn't hear anything, but others say they did. And now Saudi Arabia is also off this list. And there's only one name left on this list, and the only place Iran hasn't touched yet is here in Israel. So remember this, as I'll revisit it in the final analysis. It's central to today's video. While Iran expanded its targets, it also struck the usual American bases. In Kuwait, Iran hit a power station and a water desalination plant again. The plant, as far as I checked, is still operating. But maybe 1 or 2 more hits in an extremely sensitive place could end it all at once, guys. It could end it all at once. And now, pay attention to a cruel detail in this story. About 90% of Kuwait's drinking water comes from these desalination plants. In other words, Iran isn't just targeting the military base, it's targeting the water people drink. In Bahrain, Iran fired and the kingdom's defenses intercepted, according to officials. In Jordan, here on our side of the wall, another night of interceptions. And according to the American agency CBS, there were Americans injured in the Iranian attacks on Jordan in recent days. Injured, not killed. And just now they fired again at Jordan. Just now, folks. At 2:20 p.m. here in Israel, local time, there were also shots fired now, folks. Take a look. In Kurdistan, Iraq, there was an incident worth your attention. An explosive drone hit a weapons depot in Iraqi Kurdistan, and the fire inside triggered a series of explosions in the stored ammunition. It was a huge fire. I put the footage here, guys. It was something really massive. Really very big. I think it was the biggest one that has happened so far during this war. But here's the thing. Within the same window of a few hours, there were 6 different attacks in Iraqi Kurdistan, and some of these attacks targeted the American consulate in Erbil. Check this out. But the American defenses shot down these drones. That's what they said. In the last 2 days, 16 drones have been shot down over this same target. And look at what nobody is able to answer. Whoever fired at the American consulate has not claimed responsibility. No one has taken responsibility yet, not even Iran. 4 attacks on the same American target in 48 hours and total silence about who's behind it. We know who it is, right, folks? We know who it is. It's the pro-Iran militias in Iraq. Pro-Iran militias in Iraq are acting, but keep that question mark in mind since no one has claimed responsibility. Because in a situation this volatile, an anonymous attacker targeting Americans is the kind of thing that could light a new fuse at any moment there in Iraq, folks. We've already talked about Iraq. Remember Iraq? Once again, Iraq. And as always, in this war, the regime's propaganda machine came along with a victory statement that doesn't match reality, and today US Central Command itself immediately denied one of those lies. The Revolutionary Guard said that 2 tankers were hit and sank in the Strait of Hormuz after hitting a mine. Official statement, the Americans went public and made it very clear that this is false, okay? It didn't happen. They called it misinformation spread by the Revolutionary Guard, which ties directly to what I explained to you yesterday. Because the regime would make up 2 ships sunk in the strait. What's the point of this specific lie? Fear. To generate fear. It's to generate fear in the market, guys. In the market. The regime's big bet from the beginning is this: to scare the world with the strait closed, make oil prices skyrocket, and force Trump to back down because of the stock market, right? The Americans' wallets too. But look at what's really happening with oil. Back in March, at the height of the war, oil reached, or even surpassed, or got close to $120. And today, with the 7th night of operations and the strait under fire, right, several countries being attacked and under fire, oil is around $88 a barrel. Let me show you the current price per barrel in real time. I just checked this. Let's go through it again. Here are the planes and the oil is here. Take a look. It's online, guys, okay? Online, so you can't say, Tavi, it's not online. It's right here, look. Oil price, let me open it here. Since the beginning of the conflict, here, look. It was at 71, that was the lowest it got, around 71. And then it went up, and now it's at $88. $88. It went up, but it's not like they imagined, right? They want this oil above 120 to see if people there in the United States start pressuring the United States and Trump to stop this war. So that's the price now, folks. This is in real time, okay? The numbers are changing while we're talking, in real time. When the market opens Monday, it could rise further. But for now, this is the oil price. I'll remove this while we watch the planes. Look, they're still in the Gulf region. That's what we see, right? These are the ones here that turned on their transponder. There might be others here that we can't see. But for now, air traffic in the region remains normal. I think this is the first war, right? The first war in history where civilian air traffic remains normal. Here in the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, and even Kuwait and Bahrain, there are flights. Only this part of Saudi Arabia is different. Look, it even returned. The airport that was closed in Saudi Arabia, which was hit in Abbas, reopened again. Remember when the Houthis threatened to close this place and all airspace if the blockade continued? That's right. Commercial air traffic remains normal even over Iran. So I think this is the first war, guys, where this happens. Because up here, if we go to Ukraine, there's nothing. Look at that. Completely empty, guys. Completely empty. There are flights in Russia. There are flights in Belarus. But Ukraine has nothing. Not a single flight. Zero. Just so we can figure out what's happening now that's different from what happened back then, right? A lot. A lot has changed. So the barrel is around $88. In other words, almost nothing. It went up very little, right? Very little. Not much at all, guys. The regime's economic weapon, which is expensive oil, is practically not working this time. The world has already adapted. It probably already found other routes. And the lie about the sunken ships doesn't even move the needle. The needle barely moved, guys. It barely moved. That's why I'm telling you. You should treat any statement from the regime as unverified until it's really confirmed. And speaking of confirmation, look at the number that came from the Iranian side itself. The attack on the bridges early this morning, according to Iran's own press, left at least 8 dead and 20 injured. And now, in the middle of all this crossfire, came the harshest statement of the day. And it came from a big shot in the regime. You know him, Mohsen Rezai. Remember this name if you don't know him. The Supreme Leader's military advisor, Mustafa Khamenei. He's a historic Revolutionary Guard figure, very well known. He went on Iranian state TV and made a statement that changed the tone of everything. Listen to what he said. Quote, "The policy of negotiating and waging war at the same time is over. If the American attacks continue for another 2 or 3 days, we will enter a phase of invasion and total destruction of the enemy. And no political border will be safe from Iran's offensive forces." That was the statement. End quote. He gave an ultimatum with a deadline. 2 to 3 days. He said that yesterday, so we have about 2 more days. And he talked about invasion and total offensive, saying that no border will hold back Iran. And now, let me give you my take on this threat, because there are 2 ways to look at it. The first is that it's a real threat, right? And the region is 2 or 3 days away from a brutal escalation. Is it likely to happen? Do they have that capability? They definitely do, folks. They have the capability. There's still a lot that hasn't been used yet by the Iranian side. They haven't used everything they have. The second, and this is the one I also lean toward, is desperation, folks. Because just listen. Whoever is winning doesn't go on TV to give a 2 or 3 day deadline. Whoever is winning simply acts. This talk of deadlines and threats to destroy everything sounds like someone cornered, trying to appear strong at home. We've seen something similar from the other side before, remember? And for the Iranian people to hear this kind of thing, right, it's meant for them. It helps, doesn't it? It's not just the ego of regime supporters there. That's nothing for Americans to fear. Notice the coincidence. The threat and deadline are nearly identical to what Trump repeatedly told Iran. Remember that? The regime is copying Trump's tone and sending it back. It's mirroring him, it's pure theater. And here I need to be fair with you again, because I bring you both sides of the story and you decide. Trump's deadlines weren't accurate either. They weren't strictly followed. We have to make that very clear here. He talked about deadlines for this, deadlines for that, remember? And the dates didn't always match. But there's a big difference between the two sides. When Trump's deadline passes, he doesn't just threaten, he acts. It took a while, but he acted. With or without a deadline, he's there. Night after night, really putting pressure on Iran. It's been 7 nights in a row. This isn't talk, this is action. He promised, he didn't deliver exactly on the date and deadline, but in the end he did it, guys. In the end, the attack happened several times. This isn't the first time they're attacking Iran. And that's why I record both sides here, but the balance isn't equal. The regime's threat is on the table. Only time will tell if this is a bluff, but American action is already on the map every single day. While the regime threatens with words, the Americans respond with actual firepower. And this is where things get serious. While all this is happening, the sky tells a story few notice. Look at what's happening here. Now look at the map, see this. Flight trackers caught unusual movement. 12 American F-16 fighter jets landed at a base in Jordan. And this time, they weren't just any F-16S, okay? It's the specialized version which carries missiles designed to attack air defenses. These carry missiles that track and find the enemy's radar. Those mobile radars, not fixed ones, okay? They go there and destroy the radar. And notice who's saying this. The Iranian press itself. They were the ones who identified the F-16 model and explained very clearly that this is the fighter jet, this is the jet you send ahead to take down the remaining air defenses before a larger operation. In other words, even Iran got the message from this landing, and it didn't stop with the F-16S. The Americans also reinforced the region with 9 F-35 fighter jets. Besides the millions that exist here in the fighter jet network, there are a lot of F-35 jets, folks. Some of the most advanced that exist. More fighter jets have arrived in the region. And now put these two together in your mind. A plane that blinds radar, landing in Jordan, and here in Israel as well. Advanced attack fighters reinforcing the Gulf. These are not just any aircraft. It's exactly the kind of plane that paves the way before a larger operation. This is reinforcement arriving for the next stage. The pieces are being put in place. And it matches exactly with the analysis I gave you earlier. The siege is ending, and the preparation for entry is beginning. And now, before I wrap up here, let me go back to this explosion. It happened at an American base, guys. This seismic explosion just happened, okay? It was at an American base. Before I finish, let me revisit the point I mentioned earlier, as it has taken on new meaning today. In this round, Iran has already hit Jordan, hit Kuwait, hit Qatar, and hit Saudi Arabia. Hey man, guys, and today it also hit Saudi Arabia. Remember that? For the first time in 4 months, according to the American official. In other words, they're attacking Arab countries one after another. That's what they're doing. And they still haven't touched a single place. Israel, guys. To the despair of friends, leftists, and channel followers. You're all very welcome. But that's it, guys. They haven't attacked Israel. So notice the difference. Yesterday, there were 3 names that Iran wouldn't dare touch. And today, only ours is left. Israel. For now, the regime that spent decades selling itself as a great resistance against Israel is spending its missiles on Arab neighbors and leaving Israel aside. For now, that hasn't gone unnoticed in the region at all. The Arab world is watching. There are a lot of journalists in the Arab world talking about this, and they're bothered because people who live here nearby can hear the missiles flying over their heads. These Arabs don't have the luxury of believing the propaganda from the regime on the other side of the world. So keep that contrast in mind because it's at the heart of my analysis, folks. Now let me wrap this up by putting everything together because there's a logic to today. A clear logic. There's a logic from beginning to end. Put it together with me, piece by piece. 7th night of non-stop operations. More bridges cut. More tunnels. Communication tower. Power and water hit around Bandar Abbas. The American official himself. Let me show it again. Want to see the map? There you go. Here's the map. The American official himself admitted that the goal is to cut off reinforcements and ammunition from the city. A fighter jet that follows, blind to radar arriving in Jordan, F-16 anti-radar in Jordan, F-35 reinforcing the Gulf, and the 50,000 troops that the statement made sure to announce. Now you understand why that number showed up, right? It's the human framework of this whole siege, ready for the next phase. It's no wonder they're announcing this number all the time, folks. This isn't just a random series of shots. This is a siege drawn with a ruler around the Iranian shore of the Strait of Hormuz. This shore here that you're seeing now. As I explained earlier, a siege is what happens before you go in. That's how it's done. I'm not here to set a date. No one can. But the map's outline points in only one direction. And on the inside, Iran is fractured and desperate. The leadership is divided between holding the Strait of Hormuz at all costs and saving the economy. The people of Bandar Abbas are signing petitions against their own hardliners. A regime claims a ship sank when it never did just to claim victory. It's a win for the regime loyalists who celebrate every announcement like that. A big shot goes on TV, sets a 2 or 3 day deadline, and threatens a full offensive to appear strong. But those really in control don't act that way. Iran isn't in control, which brings up the main question of the day. If Iran had the courage to strike Saudi Arabia today, why does it still not strike Israel? The answer is in the regime's statement itself. Just look. When Iran threatened the Gulf, it threatened Qatar, the Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. It wrote the names of the countries. But on the day it wanted to show strength, it didn't write Israel's name anywhere, guys. Look at the Revolutionary Guard's statements. Israel isn't mentioned. Israel doesn't appear. The last few times they mentioned anything back then, it was the Zionist regime. And they stopped writing that in their statements. It's not there. Want more proof? Is there any bigger proof than that? Any bigger proof than that? He threatens whoever he thinks he can threaten. And he stays silent about those he's afraid to provoke. Fact. The regime loyalists are panicking, but it's true. Check the Revolutionary Guard's announcements, Mr. Mortadellas. If you can't read, go to Google Translate and translate what they announced. Find me any mention of Israel in the latest announcements. This silence about Israel in the midst of so much noise against the Arabs, total noise against the Arabs, is the most revealing thing of the day. The regime is spending its arsenal on an Arab neighbor who responds how? With a protest note. Because they know that the day they target Israel is the day the real consequences arrive, folks. They really do. That's not strength, it's the regime choosing its targets based on how much payback it can handle. That's it. And that's why for us here in Israel, this scenario is excellent. Each of these nights is Iran getting weaker without Israel firing a single missile. The one doing the job today is Trump, folks. It's Trump. And we watch from outside the spotlight as the adversary wears itself out alone. But pay close attention to what I'm going to tell you now because this is serious, folks. Don't leave here thinking that Israel is far from all this. So hold on, okay? Hold on. Israel is not insulated, folks. It's not. The situation can go from 0 to 100 in a matter of minutes. Iran could indeed decide to attack Israel. This could happen at any moment. So don't fool yourself, folks. This could happen. And I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this because there are signs on the map that point to this real risk. Just notice, the aerial refueling tankers are arriving here in Israel. And it's not just the ones coming from outside from the United States. Those that were stationed at the Gulf bases are also being transferred, moved here to Israel. And why gather tanker planes in Israel? Why? Because tanker planes are what give the fighters the range to go far and come back. That's their job. In other words, this movement alone is already a reason for Iran to look at Israel and think about attacking Israel, to target those same tanker planes. So don't relax, don't let your guard down, alright? It's great for Israel today. Okay? But today is not a guarantee for tomorrow. From 0 to 100, things can happen in minutes. That's how it works here in this region. So stick with me for today, folks. The siege around the strait has tightened by land, by sea, and by air. And the regime itself has already admitted this in the statement it released. Iran threatened the entire Gulf. It gave an ultimatum of 2 to 3 days. And even so, oil is still at $88, right? And Israel remains untouched at this moment. That's today's picture. A regime shouting loudly because it's losing strength. This isn't over, just entering a new phase, possibly on land, and it could begin in days. Maybe after the end of the World Cup, folks, this Sunday, and I'm here following every move, every flight, every decision. Live from Israel, bringing maps that no one else brings from the other side of the world, folks. Bringing maps here for you. From theories by the Iranians themselves who are raising the possibility of a major attack. From NATO, from Pakistan. Why did Pakistan show up on this map? Because Pakistan 2 days ago threatened that any attack Look, I'll remind you of this because they attacked. Any attack on Saudi Arabia will be answered by the armed forces of Pakistan against Iran. Remember that Pakistan signed a treaty with Saudi Arabia. Okay? A treaty that if any of these countries are attacked, the other will respond on their behalf. They'll go to war with them, as reaffirmed 2 days ago. If Saudi Arabia is attacked, they will join the war against Iran. Will they do something against Iran now? Remember, they have nuclear weapons, okay? Pakistan. So something could come from there too, because they said they would help. Saudi Arabia was attacked, and now Pakistan. And now Pakistan. Iran is using strategy. It's easier to fight one enemy than both at the same time. Iran no longer has the firepower to face Israel and the United States at the same time. Thanks for the super stick, Aguinaldo. Always here. Thanks, my brother. Good afternoon, Davey. Thanks, Lords. Thanks, Eunice, for the super stick. Thank you to all the sponsors and channel followers for supporting us. Discussing war on YouTube often leads to instant blocking, and the platform pays very little, just a few cents. You can't display images or you'll lose monetization. Those who do this understand. Davi, now Israel has to take advantage, right? And annihilate what's left of this regime. The moment is now. It's not about just watching. Look, the official objective of the war is not to overthrow the regime. Let's make this very clear. It's not. Not for Trump, not for Israel. They never officially declared that the goal is to overthrow the regime. The public's desire is to overthrow the regime, here in Israel. 90% of the people, you could say, let's say that more than 90% support the immediate overthrow of the regime. More than 90% because even that left side over there, who, if it were up to them, Israel wouldn't even exist. Many want to overthrow the regime, though it's not an official or public goal. Still, it could end up happening. However, I still don't believe the regime will fall. I believe that someone from the regime will be replaced, and whoever takes over will communicate with the Americans. It's just like what happens in Venezuela, guys. It's the same thing. Put someone there that the Americans can communicate with, right? And, well, become part of the international community. Right? Just like it was with Venezuela. Who would have imagined Israel going to Venezuela, helping Venezuela during or after the earthquake? Right? Nobody imagined that during Maduro's time. And it happened. Maybe the same thing will happen in Iran. Because in Iran, there are a lot more earthquakes than in Venezuela, right? Not like what happened in Venezuela, but there are earthquakes all the time in Iran. All the time, all the time. Good morning. The only gift that was with Leo from where do so many bombs inside Iran come from and where are they? Iran is a very big country. They had more than 40 years to prepare for this moment. I can't even imagine the real number of missiles that country has, guys. Hidden inside mountains. It's impossible to even imagine, man. It's an absurd amount. Look at this explosion here that showed up in the footage. It happened over in Kuwait, at the target that was hit by someone. Look at this. Look at the size of it. Look at the distance from where it's being recorded. Look at the size of this explosion. This is a mountain. It was a warehouse. See the micro explosions? It was probably an American warehouse. Probably American. Over there in Erbil. That was hit. This is inside a mountain. Look at the size and number of weapons. Imagine what Iran has on its side. Always use this perspective to guess what the other side has. The other side has had more than 47 years preparing for this. It wasn't a terrorist organization. It was a country. The country itself. Preparing, digging deep into the mountain, with all the money in the world, right? This country, the terrorist organization, regime, right? Terrorist regime. Free to do whatever they want, whatever they want. With infinite money. Thank you, Fernando Silva, my friend, and Ari Ariovaldo. Thanks, Shabbat Shalom. My friends, this is the live stream for now. I'll be back later today with another live stream +1 on the Ponto de Ruptura channel with Shimon to recap the week and discuss what's happening too. Recent events. I'll try to stream live here on our channel before going live with him, okay? I'll be back later so we can talk again, live from Israel where everything is happening. Hugs to my friends. See you at the next stream.